Hi everybody. My name is Janet Riney, and I am really pleased, a bit excited, a bit nervous, a bit anxious to be here doing this webinar. And the reason why I'm going through this range of emotions is because I suppose rather than, I've spoken and I've done webinars before, and I've been part of people's programs. I've spoken on things before. But what happened last week in a webinar that I did for the coaching exchange, I suppose just spoke from my heart, spoke about, rather than the doing the principles, it's about us being the principles. And I suppose conversations that I've been having with friends for the past couple of years just came out during that webinar. And so as a result of that, I just said I wanted to continue the conversation. So that's why we're here today, which is just to continue the conversation looking at the livelihood of the principles. And the reason why I called it the livelihood of the principles is because I think we've gotten to a place where there's a lot of doing. I need to teach this, I need to do this, I need to do something to get out there. And in my head, that just really didn't make sense, because in understanding that we are the principles, then out there just doesn't exist. So in having these conversations, it was just to, and I suppose this is the way in which I work, it's not about teaching all the time, it's not about sharing, it's about us having a conversation and recognizing and realizing that we are the principles. And so when we're having a conversation, we are, I suppose, there's a biblical scripture, it says iron sharpens iron. And so when we're having a conversation, we help each other to see each other's blind spots, our own blind spots, create a space for insight. And so that's why I want with these conversations, it's just to create a space for insight, but also to find out more from you, from people who are on this call and why they're on the call. So that's my starting position. Again, if I can just ask people to be on mute if they're not speaking, which would be great, because I'm recording and I want to send the recording out. So just as an introduction, for those who don't know me, and I'm kind of thinking, oh gosh, everybody on this call knows me, but because for also people who don't know me beyond, hey Juanita, hey Jeff, I love you. And my name is Janet Riney, nee Lindsay. Some of you may have listened to some of my recordings and know that I'm going through divorce at the moment, and so that's why I'm using my maiden name, which is Riney. And I have been around the personal development field for the last 20 years. I have a degree, these are the credentials. I have a degree in psychology. I understand about cognitive behavioral therapy technique, having worked in probation, criminal justice, and delivering interventions. I'm a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. I can tap the heck out of any phobia that you may have. And that's all because I was searching. Initially, I thought it was because I was looking for the best techniques with which to work with people. I've recently realized that all of those techniques, everything that I was looking towards, was bringing me closer to this point. Because at that moment, at that time, it was the best that I had, not only to help others, but to help myself. Because at some level, I thought I needed fixing. And so under the guise of let me help other people, I realized that it was more about me helping myself or fixing myself. 6 years ago, I was fortunate enough to come across the principles. Back then, it was in Jamie Smart's group, and he was calling it the inner circle. And it was the first time that I started to hear something which I didn't have to apply a technique. I didn't have to do anything. In fact, what was wonderful was that, in fact, I didn't have to do anything. It was fabulous. Because what I realized, it was more about me understanding not only who I am, but what I am. That these fundamental principles were pointing towards the power behind all human existence, pointing towards the source and energy that I am. And in realizing that I am that, it's also recognizing that everybody is that. And what was wonderful about that, when I saw Amy Chen Mills introduce her father's video about the work he'd done in Modelo, what came to me was, this is what I've been looking for all of my life, and I didn't know. This is what I'd been looking for, because I realized that this could change the world. This was it. And so the last 6 years have been a true roller coaster of emotions. I suppose upon entering the program, it was for me to learn something new, a different technique with which to work with people. But unlike any other approach, this was, I didn't have to do anything. It was more of a realization. It was a letting go. Things, I didn't even have to let go. Things fell away so that I could understand myself more. And when I started to share this within criminal justice initially, what was beautiful was that, and I was speaking to a client today, was that rather than creating boundaries and standards for a program, because they were wrong and I was right and I had to put things, show them this way, what I realized is that if I start from the premise that we are all the same, we're amazing, you are a reflection of me, and there's nothing to fix, I've had some of the most amazing results in working with people. I suppose in the last couple of years, and I suppose during my time in the principles, I've been fortunate enough to go to Salt Spring, and I can see Marty and Cheryl there. So I love you guys. I met them on Salt Spring, and just beautiful people in this community who point towards the true foundation and heart of this understanding. And also getting wrapped up and caught up in the doing of these principles, in the, okay, I need to teach this, I need to share this, how do I do this? And is that building a coaching practice? Is that running training programs? Is that doing professional training? And realizing I started to get caught up in what seems like my ego, in the doing of this. How can I look? How can this be? How can this seem? Which then led to conversations with people who had been on those first courses in the UK, in looking at and getting disillusioned with, I suppose in my words, how the principles were being taught, or the expectations that were being placed on how this was going to be shared. And some of my friends who started on this journey with me consciously made a decision to fall away from the principles community, because it didn't feel congruent. How can we say that we are everything and we're all things, and yet we have to do it this way or have to be this way? What's that about? And in the absence of anything else, they just turn their back on teaching it, sharing it, and decided to just live it, which is also perfect. But it's the reasons why they chose to do that. That's what saddened me, because some of them were beautiful, beautiful expressions of this understanding, and they expressed it in a very beautiful way. And so more recently, I suppose I'm being asked questions. How do you grow your practice? How can we get more clients? How can we be more congruent with your principles? And what I'm realizing is that it's not the doing. The principles isn't something to be done. The principles isn't something that we've learned to teach. The principles points towards what we truly are. The principles points towards us having an understanding not only of how we create our experience, but of the power behind the metaphors, what the metaphors are pointing towards. And so this is why I wanted to start having these conversations. So I don't think you're going to be sitting there looking at me and I'm going to be speaking for an hour. That doesn't happen. That's a conversation. Two of us or more of us. Because I suppose I'm interested to find out, I suppose, why you're here, why people are here. What was it about this title that interested people?
Thomas!
Bart, is that you? Can you mute yourself, please, sweetie? Why people are here, and just to continue the conversation about how we're seeing things, what these principles look like, what the livelihood means, and also, I suppose, are we getting stuck in this? Are we getting caught up in what these principles are, what they can mean? Are there certain ways in which we think we need to teach this? But ultimately, what Sid said was that we should go out and live our lives. It's not something to do. We have an understanding of who we are, and as a result of having an understanding of who we are, we can live, truly live, without getting caught up in the illusions that we create. So it's like I said, and what I found is that more and more as time has passed, it's moved from being a teaching to being a conversation. I remember a couple of years ago, I was with a group of people, and I sent a group of female offenders actually, and I sent the recording off to my media person to transcribe, and she said, "Jenny, it seems like you're having coffee with a group of girlfriends." I went, "I know. And I get paid for that. It's amazing." And so what I realize now, it's not so much a teaching, because in truly knowing that we are all the same, in truly knowing that we are the principles in motion, I'm open to hearing wisdom from each and every one of us. How can I sit in a position saying that I'm teaching? All we're ever doing is having a conversation which continually allows us to realize and to reveal our true nature, to experience that more, to help each other see this more clearly. So yeah, I suppose I'm going to start off by asking what was it about the title? Why are you here? Why are you listening in? If you want to unmute yourself to engage with me, I would love that. Hey, Juanita.
And he's saying I'm Emma, but I'm not Emma.
Okay.
What made me want to come on? I guess I came across the principles 18 months ago now, nearly coming up to 2-year anniversary, in October. And what I remember most about it was the quietness, the peace that was very instant. And I was at a business expo here in Jamie Smart Talk. And I'm at a stage now where it really makes sense for me to be this versus teach it, coach it, commercialize it. I think I've gone on every course and every kind of thing to kind of work out, how do I live this? How do I live this? And most recently I've had the insight that, I am it. And the reason I wanted to come on this webinar was the livelihood of the principles. And the question came to me, what if livelihood was just being who I was? And most recently, I've seen how by just being who I am, I've been able to impact people around me. You know, a lady in the cafe was with a baby, and she really just wanted to eat her waffles. And, you know, it occurred to me to go over and help her out, to feed the baby and allow her to eat. And at the end of that, it was a very simple gesture, but at the end of that, she said, "You've changed my whole day and the day I'm going to have with my baby." And we spoke and we shared, and I didn't mention mind, thought, and consciousness once. But I saw by just connecting and believing, not believing, but knowing what was true, that even though this lady was a stranger, I could connect with her, I could share with her, I could laugh with her, and invite her into a world that I was experiencing. And I didn't have to mention what it was. She walked away with it. And a book recommendation, second chance. But what I loved about this title, and what I loved about the principles and what first attracted it to, no technique, no tapping, no 4 steps. And, you know, being one of your clients, really getting to see that it's here. It really is an inside out job. And I guess for me, I just wanted to hear more of that and see more of that. So yeah, that's my bit.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Jay. And it's true when we talk about who and what we truly are, in knowing that at the very heart, the very essence of us is love. And love doesn't need any words. And so from a place of love, you can see a mother struggling, and you can just take the baby and you can play with the baby and transform someone's life. Like I said, it's not the metaphors. And I think we can get caught up with the words. And I always remember Sid, in one of Sid's recordings, said, "Don't listen to my words." Because and I know when I've done NLP in the past, you know, you can use rapport techniques to try and get a connection. But when you are that love in that moment, it's beyond any technique. That connection that you can go up to a stranger that doesn't look like you on the inside, and the outside, but on the inside, you know, is exactly a reflection of you. That's what she felt in that moment. And that's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks, Juanita. Jeff, did you have your hand up before and then?
Yep, I did. I'm here because I'm delighted to hear you speak every time I have that opportunity. You and I have shared a bit, and we're largely on the same page. I think these principles take us to "I love you." It's you've seen that from me, and I honestly believe that in our culture, pretty much the only thing that we honestly have to be fearful about is assaults to our ego. and when we can drop the importance of our ego, then there's nothing to be fearful about. And from a place of no fear, we are love and compassion and empathy and authenticity. And I just loved I put my hand up when you talked about this as a conversation. I think that you're invited. I'm not absolutely certain, but Marty and Martin, Steve have been on calls I guess I've hosted 100 or more of them that are now called Just a Conversation. There's no featured speaker. There's nobody with anything to sell. And I guess my background is I came to these 3 principles through recovery. And I just started my 4th year of a weekly meeting on Wednesdays, where I guess I'm the facilitator. I call myself the host. I don't like speaker. I don't because it's recovery. People often ask me if I'm willing to sponsor them. And this isn't 12 steps, and that's strictly a label that they use there. And I said, well, you got my phone number. Call me if you need to talk. Just call me before you drink. And okay, how about you be my mentor? And I said, you can call me whatever you want. But I'm not going to call myself anybody's mentor. I can't be anybody's teacher. I absolutely love the idea that when a student is ready, a teacher appears. And that I might occasionally be that person is an honor, but it's not to my credit. It's not something that I can do. The meetings I run, I don't even bring topics in anymore. How dare I? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a 6:30 meeting, determine what the topic should be. And last night's meeting was just, there were 20 people in the room, several of whom had tears in their eyes. And you know what the look is when the forehead, all the furrows go away and the eyes get wide and smiles show teeth. We ran the room last night. And that's one of 2 local meetings that I do, and I just love the idea that we don't have to teach this as a paradigm that's incredibly logical, persuasive, convincing. Sid said, teach from where you are, and teach what you know, and you embody that. And it's really, and there's a number of other people in the principles that do. But that's why I'm here. I decided a week ago that I desperately need to earn money, but the distance that I need to traverse to create a business, sharing the principles, is not my only motivation for doing that would be money. And I'd rather share the principles for free and go sell paint or hardware or something like that to earn a living than to try to set up what's necessary to get me from just an effective volunteer with several dozen people a week. So
That's fabulous. Sorry.
I love you.
Oh. Oh, I love you too, Jeff. And thank you for sharing that, because it's true that.
And Denise, your mic is live, and there's some noise behind you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you.
Oh, I've done a few hundred of these.
Oh, great. Thank you. But in listening to what you said, Jeff, yeah, it's fabulous that we can express our love in this way, in creating a space, in holding a space for people to be able to come and to share how things look to them, to share what they believe is true right now, and how in speaking with each other we help to see the truth, these principles, these fundamental truths, and what we are, which is love. It's interesting when you said about when the student is ready, the teacher appears, because I was listening to something in the impersonal life recently. Now, don't get me wrong, Sydney Banks is still my staple. When I'm working with people, it's always like Sydney Banks, but in seeing that we are all the principles and truth can be heard everywhere, using that as my platform, I will listen to anything and everything that resonates and comes across my path that makes sense. And a couple of times people have mentioned this book, The Impersonal Life. So I thought, okay, let me listen to this on audio. And it really did. It just felt like God was speaking to me. It was so freaky. However, and I've recently been walking with Linda Ramos, and what I heard on one of those days when I was walking was that, because I've heard that phrase, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. However, if we start from the premise that we are whole and we are perfect, then there are no problems apart from the problems we create. Therefore, if we're creating the problem, we will then find a solution and a teacher for our problem. Now that completely frazzled my mind, because then I had to start thinking, okay, then if people are looking for solutions and they've created the problem, they need to realize that there isn't really a problem, or they've come to me because they think there's a problem, and all I'm ever going to do is point them back to themselves.
Sure.
So I think that's really fascinating, that when people do find me, turn up at my door, it's because that there's they think they have a problem. And in thinking they have a problem, what I'm grateful for is, one, that they found me, or they found somebody in this principles community that points them back to themselves, that points them back to the truth. There isn't anything wrong with you. It's only that you think there is. It's only that you think there's an issue. And the answer's always within you. In fact, you are your greatest teacher. Because it's always within us.
It was almost 2 years ago, I heard Shaul Rosenblatt on, I believe it was a Supermind call, where he said he spent the first 10 years teaching these principles, showing off what he knew. He was out there bestowing his own knowledge on people, and all of a sudden it occurred to him that, well, what he knows serves him very well. That just hearing what he knows doesn't put people necessarily on their own path. And he's realized since then that his job is to point them to what they already know.
That's right.
And I believe that mirrors what you just said, that we get so caught up in our thinking that we think we can think our way to a solution. And the thinking is the problem in the first place. There's nothing to fix.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect enough.
Completely. So I'm curious, other people, while you're here, any questions, any comments right now? I just have beautiful smiling faces. It's just awesome. So I suppose, like I said, in the livelihood of the principles, and I suppose as what Juanita came on and said, it's about the love, it's about the being, and a lot of what I hear, particularly when I listen to webinars, there's a lot of webinars about how can I take this into business, how can I do this, how can I do that, how can I do the other, and very early on, I remember having a conversation with Kathy Casey when I first came across this, and I said to Kathy, how do I get into prisons? And she said, there is no how, Janet, which irritated the heck out of me, because there isn't a how. It's about having a conversation. It's about your understanding. I can't give you a how to get this into prisons. And that's something that I heard quite a bit when I first came across this. But what I'm hearing more of now is how to take this into business, how to take this into criminal justice, how to build your coaching practice, how to do all of these things. And it can feel more like a technique. And what I looked at and what resonated with me last week was, well, how are you in your life? How is life for you? How are you turning up in your relationships? How are you turning up with your children? Do you love yourself? Because we can spend so much time looking outside, trying to work with people, to help them with their anxiety and their stress and this, that, and the other. But behind the scenes, that could just be a reflection of us, because we're stressed about our businesses, we're stressed about how to get more clients, we're stressed about how to grow something, we're anxious about those things. And so it's hardly surprising we start attracting those kinds of people. They're stressed because we're stressed. And we forget about the being. We forget about what it is these principles are pointing towards. That we are love, that we are these principles in motion, that we are mind, that there are infinite possibilities available to us at any moment. And it's not a how-to, it's the being of these principles. It's the living of these principles. So when we're talking about the livelihood, that's what I started looking at. It's the living of this. It's the understanding and the experiencing of love that we are towards ourselves. So that Juanita can go up to a woman in a cafe and hold the baby because of the love that she has within her and that she sees in herself and experiences for herself, that she's able to share that, be that, connect on that level. And so and I know we always used to say that, you know, feeling is feedback, and you get a feeling when you listen to certain people, and sometimes I don't hear that when people start teaching the principles. I know, you know, in something, I know that I'm only ever feeling my thinking 100% of the time, but the feeling that I'm getting with some people, it's like you're missing something, there's something missing. And that's why I was always searching, looking for something different. And so for me, it is about going back to these basics. It's going back to what was Sid pointing towards when he had that enlightened moment. And in one of his recordings, he said he saw divine mind, divine thought, divine consciousness. It's like he saw the true meaning of God. To me, that's what's important. That's the heart of which Sid was pointing towards. For us to experience that, for us to see that. I mean, we're never going to experience exactly what Sydney Banks saw or what his experience was. But for us to look in this direction and recognize that in understanding who and what we are, that we can live a life of ease. We can live a life of freedom. Because that's what I realize now. One of my key things always used to be freedom. And in the past, freedom used to be that I can be free to do whatever I want to do. But what I'm realizing more and more now is that freedom is understanding who and what I truly am. That's where the freedom is. That's where the power is. And then whether I choose to do something or not, it's irrelevant. I'm already free. I already am. I already am that which I already seek. And so that's why I want to have these conversations, to speak and just have an open forum so that we can be that, so that we can be reminded of that, so that if people want to ask a how-to, it's okay to ask it. I'm not saying it's wrong to ask it, because if that's what makes sense in the moment, then ask the question. But together what we can do is have a conversation and see why it makes sense, what made sense. So that we can release ourselves from thinking that the livelihood of the principles is a doing. The livelihood of the principles is a being. The livelihood of the principles is an experience of life, the fullness of life, the love of life. And then whatever we choose to do from that point is a being. I'm sorry, I was just reading a question, Denise. I will come back to that. From that place of being, whatever we do, we are the principles in motion. We don't have to teach this. We don't have to share this. We are this. And starting from that premise, it's like recently I had a contract within a probation office, and every morning I would go in and say, hello, beautiful people. How are we? We're gorgeous. And they would just look at me like I had come off another planet. And the woman I used to sit beside, I'd say, Ellis, good morning. I love you. I think you're wonderful. And she's like, I love you too, Janet. I'm like, no, I really love you. I really do. and for the 5-6 months I was on a contract there, I never once mentioned the principals, because they would be too busy and they had, heavy caseloads and I didn't have to. Because just in being that love, that light, in knowing what I truly am at the very heart and core of me, I was a living example of these things that we talk about, we try to articulate and put in words. I'm just reading Denise's comment, everybody. Why are we forgetting who we are? Is it because we are also what we are not? Like we are both? Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I think what happens is, we are form and formless at the same time. We're not either or, we are both. And what can happen is in our humanness, like he says, mind is the infinite intelligence behind all life, and we make sense of things through thought, and we experience our thought through consciousness. And what can happen, because the power of thought is so, I say, pervasive, we can believe that to be true, we can believe that to be real, and in looking at our thinking and believing it to be real, we can start looking in the opposite direction to what we are. We forget the true nature and the true essence of what we are. So it's when I was working with a client recently, she came to me because she was frightened that her daydreaming was taking over. And she didn't feel that she could control it. She didn't think she could come back to reality, which is fascinating to me. I'm like, oh, you think there's a reality? Oh, that's cool. Let's have that conversation. So after exploring and seeing that she's making up both sides, what she thinks is reality is also her thought creation. What she thinks is her imagination and illusion is also her thought creation. It's about recognizing that it's all thought. But even in that, she came back to me a few weeks later and it was like, I think I need to do this, and I think I need a new technique, and I think I need to do this. And I said, oh, you're forgetting that it's all thought, and you're forgetting that it's all you. You're forgetting that you're the power behind the thought. You're forgetting that you are the principles in motion. These things aren't separate to you. This is what you are. You forget that you're this power and you're creating all of this stuff. And she stopped and tears came into her eyes. She goes, Jenna, I forget how powerful I am. I forget how amazing I am, because her thought creation is so strong. She forgets that she's all of that. And I think we're so used to separating things, as you said. Is it because we are also what we're not? It's a misnomer, because we're everything. So there's nothing that we're not. It's all of us. It's just that we then start separating and say, oh, that's a good bit, that's a bad bit. It's all, we're all of it. And it's about accepting all of that. And I suppose that's the thing. There are bits that we don't like. It's like, oh, no, that's outside. And this is inside out. It's like, actually, it's all the same. And it can be bizarre when it depends which. I mean, I had an insight when I was walking back towards the office during the lunchtime. I looked up at the building. Now, if we're saying that we're all the same thing and we're all made of the same stuff, I looked at the building like, oh, I'm the building. Oh, honestly, this is how crazy it went. I am the building. I am everybody in that building. I am part of that experience right now, even though I'm not in the building. I'm having an experience of it. And it can get like that sometimes when I can fluctuate between okay, I'm seeing the building, but I know that I'm all things, I'm part of this universe and everything is energy, and oh my gosh, that's me. It's a reflection of me. And so when we start to separate, that's when we start to get confused. If you think there's a either or both, it's all one. We're all the same. We're everything. It's when we start to separate and I say we forget our true nature. We forget that it's all us. When we say we're spiritual beings having a human experience, it's all us. The form and the formless at the same time. Does that help, Denise? Does anybody want to add or share if they've seen anything to that statement? You guys are amazing. Thanks, Jeff. Jeff.
I presume you can see. Sorry, you can hear me because you can't see me.
Steve. Oh, hi, Steve. And Jeff, I'll come back.
Yeah. Sorry, my camera hasn't worked like forever and whatever. Which Jeff obviously knows. For those who don't know, I'm a Tai Chi instructor, and the way that I look at doing my instruction is, I suppose it's different than what other people would look at it as. Students would be going to see somebody and they go in front of the instructor, the master, whatever, and they think that that person's going to teach me some stuff. They're going to install some skills and things within me. And I suppose I probably did have that attitude until I came across this and had the realization that the reality is I can't give them anything. Because for them to be able to do anything within the realm of Tai Chi or anything else is they had to have that ability already within themselves. So it's not a plug and play situation. It's just a thing where I'm a guide and they find within themselves what their power can be. But what I find interesting sometimes is I'll be with some students and I'll go through some things and I'll have them do things to me that I'll guide them through. And not to kind of like blow my own trumpet, because just what I said is like, I'm not installing anything in them. They get to do some things that look pretty freaky and would look unbelievably fake. But yet, it happens. But then they'll go away, come back the next week, and they'll forget that they actually did these things, that they did things that didn't take any effort, that was through feeling, through the power of their intention, their thought. And yeah, it just made me realize, think how much how much people forget, even though when they get shown it, how powerful they actually are. And I suppose going to Denise's question before, it's just we keep forgetting that we have all this stuff, all this potential within us, and we can attach it to something else or somebody else. Yeah, we just kind of keep looking in the wrong direction and keep forgetting that we can do some pretty funky stuff because it's already inside us already. If it wasn't there already, we couldn't do that stuff. Yeah. Maybe I'll show you something of that tomorrow, Janet. But
In the park. Steve lives not too far from me, so I'm going to meet with him tomorrow. Should be cool.
Yeah, if I do the thing that I think I'm going to do, you will probably burn me as a witch at the stake. But there you go.
Okay.
So,
Jeff, were you going to say something?
And I keep on running across, and I don't know what exactly in Steve's conversation, but more information isn't a solution. That's not what any of us needs. And what really got my attention, and it just came up for me now when you were responding to Denise, is that somewhere in the 30s, I can't put my hands on missing link right now. I thought it was page 34, it may be. But says that the illusionary gap between subject and object disappears. And it was 6 years ago when I heard that. I mean, really heard that.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a couple of days. And the example I used is I used to go out in my backyard for a cigarette 2 in the morning, and I live about a mile from the freeway. And at 2 in the morning, there isn't much traffic, and it's pretty quiet outside, except that I could hear the tires singing on the big trucks. We don't have any grades, and so it's not Jake brakes and that kind of stuff. But I could hear them damn tires. It would be really quiet if it wasn't for those damn tires. And then I realized that if I could hear the tires, that was part of my experience. There wasn't a me in here evaluating life out there. That the fact is that those trucks are probably bringing me gasoline and toilet paper, and there would be some nights I go out there and I wouldn't even be aware of them. Mm-hmm. But either way, my experience is life for me. It can't be anything other than that. And I dropped this whole idea of there's a me in here passing judgment on the life I'm having the experience of. It just, who in the hell am I to judge it anyway? And I realized that most of my thoughts were judgments, or just opinions, or just it's taking what is and applying my own personal book of shit over the top of it and deciding whether or not life fits. And the fact is life was doing just fine before I got here. Mm-hmm. And maybe I ought to adjust my book of should, or maybe I ought to just throw the damn thing away.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you. I like your book of, did you say S-H-I-T?
Should. No, stop shoulding on yourself. Well, Eckhart Tolle and even Sid says things are as they should be. And that implies that somewhere out there's a great big book of should that's accurate. And last winter here, we only had about 3 snowstorms, so pedestrians and drivers absolutely loved it. My son owns 5 trucks with plows hanging on them. And so his idea how it should be was a little different from how it is, but that's personal to each of us. And there isn't, that I'm aware of, a book of should. And so I've kind of taken, instead of things are as they should be, they're as they must be. Could they be different? They already would. And there isn't a should in operation. Things are just fine, perfect enough.
Nice, thank you. Right, guys, I'm just looking at the time, and I put this down for an hour, so it's coming up towards the hour. I was going to ask if there are any last comments or questions that you wanted to ask, whilst we still have a few moments. Yeah, Denise, yeah, comment. Can you unmute yourself and comment?
Hey, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I wanted to say, I have this, since I heard the principles, I have this urge to share them with people. And I think this is the hardest thing. Like, I cannot stop myself. Like, since the first day, I started sharing. And it puts lots of pressure on my shoulders in the first place.
Okay.
It was really hard because I couldn't. I kept saying, you know, these 3 principles thing, like I kept saying 3 principles. And now that you explained my question, I heard something new. And if we are the thing, the space or the power behind the thought, and if all of us is that, then there is nothing to share.
You don't have to. There isn't anything. You don't have to.
No, it's not sharing. I wouldn't call it sharing. I would call it being, as you call it. I would just be me, and then if they see, they see. If they don't see, maybe next time they don't see it, or never. Yeah. I don't know. Well, like I have this urge to, the good intention to help people, or support people. Very bad intention, but well, this is like a really hard work and a lot of effort. And well, it doesn't feel effort anymore, but still the way I do it, like you were talking about the how-tos of things, like how to make it a business, how to whatever. And I sometimes catch myself when I'm looking for how-tos of whatever, coaching in general. So what are everybody doing? Like, how is Michael Neal doing it? How is whatever X person doing it? And then you pay for the programs and you keep going on this loop, and then you lose yourself in much more thought than is necessary. And so yeah, and I think the how-tos are also not necessary.
So true. Fabulous. Thank you, Denise. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you for organizing this, and it was amazing. I really had fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And like I said, I just want to keep the conversations going. So I've arranged for a few of my friends to join me in conversation in the next coming week. So I'm going to post a link. I'll post a link in there if you want to. I think what happens, it takes you to a page just to sign up so that you can know when the next webinars are. No salesy thing, no sign up to this click funnel, none of that. It's just like, these are when the next webinars are going to be. So you can, and I'll copy it and put it in an email or something. But next week, I've asked Anne Ross to come and speak and have a conversation with me. And what I love about Anne is that Anne's been in the marketing game, has been in the holistic health game for years. And she came across the principles, and like a lot of us, were efforting to make the business work. And I was speaking with her today, and we've had conversation over the last 18 months, and I asked if she would speak and see how she's now seeing this and how life is for her. And what she started sharing with me is that she has a business that's busy. You know, she's busier now than she's been in quite a few years since coming across the principles. And it wasn't the doing that did it. It was her understanding that allowed her to let go of what she thought it should be. And she's called, what we're calling the title of next week's talk is I Am Enough. Because when she realized that she was enough, that's when things started to change. Her practice, how she works, completely changed. So the links in there, I would really, I invite you to come back next week for another conversation when you'll hear myself and Anne having a conversation and hear how, when she realized that she was enough, how that changed what she does and how she is. So thank you, everybody, for turning up tonight, for joining me tonight, my time. I really appreciate it and appreciate the comments and seeing familiar faces and new faces. Oh, sorry, you want to say something? I thought you were waving goodbye.
Well, I don't see the link. I didn't get a chance to write it all down.
Oh, is it not that? It's in the chat. It's in the chat box, I think. Is it in the chat? Yeah, check in the chat.
Janet,
I popped it in the chat.
Janet, if you post it on the event,
Right.
it'll live on Facebook. The chat goes away as soon as you close the meeting.
Okay, so I'll put it in the Facebook for this past event.
Okay.
I'll put it in the new event as well.
And this happens to me all the time. I just went to the ePearl and it's offered me a CAPTCHA, except I can't see it because it's served up from Google, and Google and I have an issue. And
Okay.
so if you just let me know, I'll be here.
Okay, I will post it everywhere so that people can find it. But once again, thank you so much for being here and for contributing and sharing. Just seeing your wonderful faces, it really is a joy. Thank you for being part of this conversation, and hopefully I'll see you in the coming weeks. Take care, everybody.
I love you.
Bye, Cheryl. Bye, Marty. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.